Welcome to Ask a Lawyer with attorney Joey Franks at the Franks Law Firm in Ridgeland, Mississippi. Each week, Joey answers your questions about the law and how it affects you.
What's the difference between a DUI and a DWI?
The same difference there is between a tomato and a tomato. A DWI is the old archaic term that was used up until the late 90s or early 2000s in most states regarding driving while intoxicated. They moved it to driving under the influence to include drugs, including prescription pills, marijuana, and things like that. But for all intents and purposes in the state of Mississippi, a DUI and a DWI are exactly the same thing and carry the same penalties.
Okay, what if I've already agreed to plead guilty?
If you've already agreed to plead guilty, there are a couple of questions that's going to come up. Have you actually pled guilty yet? Because until you walk up in front of the judge and say, I'm entering a plea of guilty, and they go through certain questions they have, whether or not this is of your own free will and accord, knowingly, intelligently made, and some other questions explaining rights that you may have and may be waiving, then you haven't pled guilty at all, and you still have the right to get an attorney and go try it and see if a better deal can be negotiated, possibly, if that's an option. Now, bear in mind, some prosecutors, whenever you slap their deal down that you've already accepted, likely will not put another deal out there, and you would just have to try it, and that's not always a bad situation. The other issue comes up, have you already pled guilty? Because if you've pled guilty, you only have 30 days to appeal a ruling from the lower court, the municipal or the justice courts in Mississippi, up to the county or the circuit court in some locations. So it all depends on whether or not you've already pled or not. But if you've pled guilty, you need to get an attorney immediately if you want to do anything about it, because after 30 days, there's not a thing in the world that can be done with it.
Okay, I've got more than one DUI. What do I do?
You hire an attorney. It depends on how far apart they are, whether or not you've had the trial on the first one, whether or not you're going to trial on the second one. There's some old lawyer tricks out there that we try pulling sometimes, to where the second DUI, we actually try having it pled out as a DUI first. Because we go and show the court, we try pushing it up to where it goes to trial before the DUI first. We can't always swing that, but it's certainly a tactic that we'd like to use. And if you're found guilty of that DUI first, then the DUI first that was actually the prior date, you can't have a DUI second for a date before you had a DUI first. So we work it out and try getting it to where you essentially end up with two DUI first. It's a hit and miss. Sometimes we can pull it off. Sometimes it's just too far of a stretch.
Why did the officer make me follow a penlight with my eyes?
There's a test called the horizontal gaze nystagmus that he was performing with that test, and he probably held it up in the center of your face for a moment. Then he went one direction, and then he come all the way across to the other direction, and he went back and forth a couple times, and it probably took a minute, maybe 2 minutes to perform it, perhaps a little bit longer. And he's looking for the nystagmus of the eyes when it's held at a certain angle, and after forcing your eyes to move back and forth a few times, the nystagmus kind of wiggles, for lack of a better word. He can see it shaking in there. And that is a sign that you may be impaired. Now, the cases in Mississippi have held that cannot be used to prove impairment by itself. That is used to prove probable cause. And there's a Supreme Court case out there regarding that.
I've heard the term mouth alcohol. What's that?
Mouth alcohol is a term used to describe some residue of alcohol that can be left in your mouth. Say you just pulled out of the bar parking lot and you took 3 shots of Jack Daniels. Well, there's a chance that maybe a small amount of that has not gone down the throat yet. And when you blow into the breathalyzer, you're essentially blowing straight Jack Daniels at that point into the breathalyzer, which would actually read a higher alcohol content than blood alcohol content's what I'm referring to. It would read a higher blood alcohol content than you actually have, because it's skipping, it's getting interrupted by the alcohol going directly into it before the air or with the air from your lungs. And the way they try eliminating that is they have you blow in the Intoxilizer 8000 whenever you actually get to the jail. and they have an observation period of 20 minutes to try eliminating that.
Thanks for listening to Ask a Lawyer with attorney Joey Franks at the Franks Law Firm in Ridgeland, Mississippi. Call attorney Franks at 601-773-7777. His website is thefrankslawfirm.com.